In this lesson, we are going to install Flask and create our first Flask application. So let's go to the root of our environment, and here let's open the command prompt and let's get rid of this first. And now we are going to install Flask, but before that we need to activate the virtual environment again. Our virtual environment is activated. Now we will run pip install Flask. So Flask is installed along with some dependencies. Now let's create a new folder here. We have created a folder called app, which is exactly outside of our virtual environment. We can do that, or also we can move this inside our virtual environment. So now here inside this app, we are going to create our Python file. So before that, let's open VS Code inside our virtual environment. So from the command prompt, go inside the app directory and now code space dot. That will open VS Code inside the current directory. And here you can see right now we are inside this app directory. And click on this icon and let's create a new file called hello.py. Inside this hello.py file, we are going to create our first Flask application. So let's start by importing Flask. Once Flask is imported, we are going to initialize the constructor. So now we can use this app variable to access the methods of Flask. First of all, we are using the decorator syntax to access the route method, and inside the route method we are passing the pattern of URL. So that means whenever someone is going to the root URL, then in that case we are going to execute the following method. So whenever someone visits the root URL of our web application, they will get hello Flask in return. Here you need to notice one thing, that the Flask constructor uses the module name as argument. And here finally we have added a condition. If the argument that we are passing inside is main, then in that case execute the run method to run our application. Now let's save this and let's get back to the terminal or command prompt in our case. So right now we are inside this app directory. So we can access the hello.py file directly. Now just like any other Python code, we are going to use Python space the file name. And here it is showing this is running the Flask application called hello, and here it is showing a warning that you're using the development server do not use it for production deployment. And here you can see the URL which we can access to check the output of our application. So let's go to the browser and visit the URL. Here you can see, once we visit the URL, we are getting hello Flask. And if we visit the source code, it is nothing but a simple string. So that's how the Flask application works. By default, it uses the host localhost or 127.0.0.1, and for the port, it uses 5000 by default. We can change these values by placing some arguments inside the run method.